It feels like The Office, but like pretty funny, trendy girly pops. Riley took the Maddies to Fiji last year. So in the same way that we saw the influencers in the 2010s traveling, I feel like we see the girlies that work for these influencer brands travel and get to have all these fun stuff in the 2020s and just have a seemingly very fun work environment. They are expanding and they needed another person to work for them. I don't think the Remy girlies plus Riley's fiance could have seen the influx of applications that they did. So many people applied.
This is EGC content, employee generated content, and it's giving lawsuit or HR nightmare.
Hey guys, it's Briar and let's chat about it. So for all of us that remember the good old slays, aka the 2010s, being a beauty influencer or an influencer in general was definitely the dream job. It was idolized, it was seen as amazing with all these amazing opportunities. And now in the big old slays of the 2020s, a lot of those influencers has taken their experiences and the monies that they made, but of course it makes sense. They've been watching other brands getting the behind the scenes and promoting them for years. It makes perfect sense for them to go on and make their own brands, and combining that with their platforms and knowledge around social media, it truly was the perfect storm to make these brands not only successful but really popular online. And from that we saw these influencers growing their brands, hiring a team, and of course hiring dedicated social media team members. Because today being a successful brand online is beyond selling a product. People do not want to feel sold to, people want to watch entertaining content. And so these brands and their online platforms, whilst yes, definitely feature the products and talk about the launches, they're so much more than that. They revolve around the employees. They do funny, silly trends, and it feels almost like watching The Office except for the beautiful and trendy people. And so I really just wanted to chat about these brands with you guys today. Chat about how they've become so Ariana Grande successful, but also because of course this is a Briar's chat video, we must also chat about the recent concerns that have been raised by other people about how they worry if this is a sustainable way to market your brand and if it is just going to turn into a HR, or in Australia I believe they say HR nightmare. So if you simply want to yap about influencer brands, how they've been so successful, have a good time, have a silly one, but also a little bit of a critical ponder and yap, stick around and let's get into it. So straight off the bat, all of the brands we're going to be talking about are Australian, so I do apologize if I sleep into an Australian accent more than usual in this video. I need to stop.
Stop it. Get some help.
Today's a silly one, and I feel like even more so a fun one, because one thing you won't find here is hateritis. I do not hate any of these brands. I do not hate any of these influencers. But in fact, I enjoy them all. And that is how this silly little idea has kind of like DVD logo bouncing around in my head for so long, is because I've been like watching, observing, whatever you want to call it, these brands, and honestly just pondering this way of marketing and how it has become so successful. And it is really interesting that concerns around this way of marketing and just in general the worries around these brands and how they can remain professional and maintain those boundaries with their employees. Like, it's really interesting to me that all of these concerns have come up whilst this idea has been, pondering and bouncing around in my silly old brain. So it just felt like time and place, perfect time to do it. So to begin with, I wanted to introduce you to my ladies. These are my ladies. I wanted to introduce you to the brands, the influencer behind the brand, and kind of what makes them stand out, what makes them tick, and things that they have done specifically to really boost them up into virality. And then, of course, as always, we will get into the qualms, concerns, and critical thoughts. Full of those, aren't I? So the first brand that I wanted to talk about was All For Mimi, which was started by the Instagram and TikTok influencer Sofa Dofa. Now, what I do think is really important to note is how young she is. She is only 21 years old. Girly Pop was born at the end of 2003. So to already be such a successful influencer and have a brand, I just feel like is so beyond impressive. And she definitely has an eye for what is trending and what will do well online, especially on TikTok. I would describe her content as like funny, silly, but like fashion, lifestyle type content. She definitely jumps on trends. I feel like a lot of people remember her from her blue corset that she posted a video in. It was rare, you had to be there kind of vibe. But let's go to the All For Mimi website so we can get a vibe of what All For Mimi is about. So when you go to the main page, it is clearly a clothing brand. It has athleisure, sleep, fun stuff. So let's hear about their story. Our inspiration, meet Mimi. Ruby Musgrave, known to her loved ones as Mimi, was a self-made fashion icon born in 1907. Mimi launched her own bridal couture and lingerie boutique in Mosman during the roaring 1920s, a time when female entrepreneurship was few and far between. Mimi was known to all for her eccentric style and always being immaculately dressed. I wish that was my reputation. She was a true fashion icon with an eye for detail that set her apart from the crowd. In a few words, Mimi was confident, elegant, and daring. The founder. Message from Soph. Mimi was my great-great-grandmother. My mum and grandma have told me many stories about how bold she was in starting her own fashion line at a time where women were seen as inferior to men and incapable of succeeding in business. I was not fortunate enough to meet her, but with every story, I grew more and more connected to her. Her love for glamorous fashion, coupled with her refusing to accept the status quo, has stayed with me as I've grown into the woman I am with a desire to follow in her footsteps. I want to dedicate my brand Mimi in her honor and hope to carry on her legacy in my work. Now on TikTok, All For Mimi has 95.6 thousand followers, which I feel like is definitely less compared to the other accounts we will be talking about, but they do have nearly 8 million likes, and I love this in their caption, which says, "You have to be fun to work here, Mr. Worldwide for 10% off." So it kind of gives you a vibe of the energy. Like, this isn't a regular place to work, it's a cool place to work. But I would definitely describe their content as like fashion orientated, obviously, but they definitely do a lot of the trendy dances. So I did want to show you guys a couple, of their videos so you can catch a vibe.
Come on, shake your body, baby, do that.
Shut up.
Bailey has always wanted to go to Coachella. I'm going to surprise him with tickets to Coachella, and we're going to pretend to do this TikTok trend where we say one thing about each other, and then I'm going to say one thing about Bailey is, you get it, he's going to Coachella. I'm so excited. This is like his dream, and I just know he's gonna freak out.
Okay, we are doing this TikTok trend where usually you say one thing about yourself and it's really like wholesome and cute, but we're gonna do one thing about each other after traveling for so long. Okay, one thing about Bailey is he always plays his TikToks on volume level 4000. We will be anywhere. We could be like in a library and he's got a trend on his phone blaring. I didn't realize you were like half
In my defense, like finding audio is like my job, so.
Yeah, but like it doesn't need to be that loud.
Okay, so the next thing is that Soph actually doesn't plan any outfits for her trip, so when we get to the accommodation, she likes to open up all the suitcases and take everything out just to see all the options.
It's giving suitcase exploded.
And then she goes, oh, can you find this? But like, there'll be a big pile.
One thing about Bailey is he's going to Coachella.
Shut up. Are you being serious? No, don't stitch me up. Is it a prank? Are you being serious?
Yeah, my life.
Actual? Are you being serious? God, I can't handle this. I can't handle this.
As you can see, this content revolves a lot around Soph, who created the brand, but also Bailey, who is their social media content creator. And what I do want to note from the Coachella video is this comment, which Soph posted, which says, he is a content creator for my brand and for me, so he gets to go on these trips. It's a perk of his role. So I do think that that's really interesting that he does content not just for All For Mimi, but also for Soph as well, which means they travel a lot together. They went to Coachella together. Most times when she gets invited on a brand trip, he will also go to obviously make content for the brand, but for Soph as well. And everyone in the comments really agreed that Bailey is the best thing that has happened to All For Mimi. He understood the assignment. And the craziest thing about Bailey is how he got hired for All For Mimi. Because at the beginning of the year, Soph posted this video.
No, I thought that would be the case. Who took? Yeah, that's okay, girl. Okay. Say hi to Riley for me. Bye. Maddie Dillon, she won't do it. I don't think she would. She loves Remy.
Oh, really?
We need our own Maddie Dillon. Like we need a social media person. Do you love making TikToks? Do you love posting on Instagram? Do you love social media? Well, we need a social media person, perhaps our own Maddie Dillon. If you would like to work for All For Mimi as our new social media person,
slide into our DMs.
Maddie Dillon will not come work for us as expected, so we need our own Maddie Dillon. If you'd like a job in social media and you're good at what you do, send us why you should work for us.
So the name Maddie Dillon is definitely a sneak peek for one of the brands we will talk about in a little bit. But yes, Soph put out a call to action on social media to be like, hey besties, we've seen especially what TikTok can do for small businesses, and for making exciting content for a brand, we need our own Maddie Dillon, who is a social media content creator for a different Australia brand. So that is actually how Bailey was hired, and I wanted to show you guys his application videos because, well, I feel like you'll understand exactly why he was hired when you see them.
And don't say hello.
So we all know that All for Mimi's hiring, and if you don't, you're living under a rock. So here is my slideshow presentation on why I deserve that job. Reason number one, I literally go to fashion school. I'm studying communications, media, marketing. I literally have a content creation class. I'm built for this. Moving on. Reason number two, I'm a keyboard warrior extraordinaire. I can literally type quicker than I can think. You need a TikTok caption, an Instagram story, content ideas. Give me 5 seconds, I'm there. Reason number three, data-driven and laugh-driven. Not only can I evaluate the analytics and make sure we're hitting every single goal, giving the people what they want and reaching the target audiences with ease, but we can do so whilst making everyone laugh. Number four, All for Me. Boom. I'm actually psychic, hear me out. I can actually predict the trends before they're a thing. What's coming in, what's going out. But wait, this isn't just fashion trends. What's happening on TikTok? What's popping off on Instagram? I can predict these things before they happen, meaning All for Mimi is first in the game. Number five, humor plus strategy equals results. Enough said. Number six, I'm literally a Canva pro. Not only can I whip up the most aesthetically pleasing designs, I literally pay for premium. You don't have to buy it for me, like I already have it. Number seven, I have an eye for aesthetics. This one I'm going to show proof. All you have to do is just jump into the Instagram feed. Number eight, content is going to be viral. This is another one with proof. Not to sound egotistical, but this is egotistical. What I'm going to say is look at the views and look at the engagement. Moving on. Quick zoom in. I feel we're coming to our last point because I couldn't fit every reason of why I'm the best candidate into this presentation. Number nine. Who do I remind you of? Now I'm going to let you think for a second. Boom. Maddie from Remy and Katie from JHM. We, as a trio that don't know each other yet, could be the brand, social media, it girls, and gay. Everyone knows that Riley has Maddie. Jazz has Katie. Who does Soph have? Bailey. They have their it girls, and you can have your it gay. Oh my god. Just a quick conclusion slide. My DMs are always open. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at little.whitey. If it's easier, just go into my profile, send a little DM. Even if you say like, you've got the job start Monday, that's fine with me. Thank you so much. All jokes aside, this is literally my dream job, and I will sit at the front of the All for Me warehouse and knock on the door with marchers in hand, waiting.
Okay, you just said it in all seriousness and said the most unserious thing.
Okay, in actual all seriousness, I would literally die for this job. It's made for me, and I think I would be a great fit.
And I truly believe that Bailey delivered on all of those promises, if not even more so. And the content definitely speaks for itself, the views speak for themselves. And I think that's why he also does content for Soph as well as the brand. The one thing that I do want to just highlight to you guys now is that Bailey and Soph definitely feel like they have like a sibling relationship. However, this definitely has raised a few eyebrows for the concern yaps because of like, where is the boundary, where is the line? Are we friends? Do we need to have those strict rules? Now, are those strict rules even necessary, or do they just understand the boundaries in place? I think definitely one thing that people notice is that Bailey and Soph were doing a lot this year. They traveled to a lot of different countries. I think they went to Thailand, America a few times, Coachella whilst in America, and then traveling to do content after Coachella. So they were just booked and busy. And so I think a lot of people were like, wow, like where is the boundaries? Where is the line? Like, yes, you're at Coachella, but it is also work, and Coachella is also exhausting. Like, yes, they are 21, 20 years old, but surely even a 20 or 21-year-old would get burnt out if they were working 24/7 with all this pressure to make this constant viral content. But any slay, let's move on to a brand that was mentioned a bit by All4Mimi, which is Remy by Riley. And Remy by Riley was made by Riley Hempson, which was originally known as Healthy Chick 101 on Instagram. She definitely became most popular on Instagram first, but I definitely feel like she has had a resurgence on TikTok as she has like broadened her content horizons. She's definitely all about inclusivity and having like that healthy lifestyle, but also balance. But she also started a running series, which I feel like introduced her to a whole other side of like influencing, and she went to Greece with Nike because of this running series. But traditionally she's definitely more of a fashion and like beauty lifestyle influencer, but she has that kind of like healthy chick, you know, background type of a vibe as well. So her brand is Remy by Riley. If we go to the website, we can see it's swimwear, loungewear, and eyewear, aka sunglasses. But if we go to her about, Remy by Riley is an Australian fashion label celebrating every woman with effortlessly elevated loungewear, resort wear, activewear, and swimwear designed for sizes 6 to 24. So a super awesome size inclusive range. And then it says below, founded in 2020, Remy by Riley has evolved into so much more than just an activewear brand, growing alongside Riley's own personal journey to be a go-to brand for all. And I definitely feel like that rings true, because in the same way that Riley transitioned from being Healthy Chick 101 and she started with like in the 2010s era of like posting your weight loss transformation and like working out, all that stuff, and then she kind of moved into the influencer space, and then I feel like she's found a balance between both, and she also does a lot of modeling. Now if we go to TikTok, Remy by Riley has just over 160,000 followers, and their team is made up of 3 girlies plus Riley's fiance Vita. But the 2 other girls that work for Riley is her younger sister Maddie, and then the social media content creator that we all heard All4Mimi talking about, Maddie. It's not at all confusing. I think, if I'm correct, the Maddie that does the social media goes by Mads. But I would describe their content as definitely more like silly goofy. Like, it's definitely about the clothes and the products that they sell, but I would say that their content is definitely the most personality driven and kind of content that you would just see an influencer that you really enjoy posting on their own pages. So let's watch a couple of those so you guys can get a vibe.
Okay, you guys know that trend at the moment that's like the thing I hesitated to post in today versus what I posted. Yeah. We're doing a competition. Who can get the most views on their video?
Yeah. I'm gonna win, guys.
I fear Maddie might win this one.
I do really have some embarrassing ones. I'm just still trying to find them.
Wait, are yours still active?
Yeah.
Oh, you might need to shelve them all.
Maddie, I think you're doing the rolling over thing.
The no shirt. Why look older? The lashes are sending me though, they're so thick.
This is during lockdown. I like would get ready every day and do
That's
like
a film.
filming.
Yeah, I know, because I was in the fucking house with these 2. You butter them in the head. Proof that we're siblings.
Maddie, that side part is
Yes.
unbelievable.
Oh my god. Oh no.
What is that?
See some real ass, baby, here's your chance.
If you were wondering who won, it was Maddie Dillon, the social media girly. Her video got over 500,000 views, and it's just like what I said before, like it feels like The Office, but like pretty funny, trendy girly pops. The one thing I would note about Remy is that it's interesting because most of the employees are related to Riley. Only Maddie, up until now, is an external hire, where the other people who work for her are her fiance and her younger sister. And I feel like working with a family can definitely be a whole other kettle of fish. But just like with Bailey, I would definitely say that Maddie has also taken the content to a next level and really given a personality to the content. And another thing that Remy has done that I feel like makes it such a desirable place to work, aside from seeming just really fun, I feel like that's the vibe we also got from All for Mimi. It seems fun. You're taking pictures of your boss and you get to go to Coachella. In that same way, Riley took the Maddies to Fiji last year, and then she did a collab with a brand we will talk about in a smidgy bit, and they went to Dubai to shoot content for that collection release. So in the same way that we saw the influencers in the 2010s traveling, I feel like we see the girlies that work for these influencer brands travel and get to have all these fun stuff in the 2020s and just have a seemingly very fun work environment. Now, the reason I bring up Remy by Riley is because just like All for Mimi, they are expanding and they needed another person to work for them. But because they did this after All for Mimi and they saw how Bailey got the job, instead of being like, oh, Bailey did something creative, new, funny, and different, and that's how he stood out, they literally did a copy and paste of what he did to kind of replicate the magic and show, look, I can make the same content as him. But in reality, to be a successful social media person, you're not replicating other people's content. You're foreseeing trends, you're getting ahead of the trends, you're starting trends, you're doing things that are original. You're not just copying and pasting what other brands are doing. Imagine if we saw Remy's brand just start to copy every post that All for Mimi did. We would be confused. I don't think the Remy girlies plus Riley's fiance could have seen the influx of applications that they did. So many people applied. A lot of people, like I said, just kind of copied what Bailey did with these signs and just walked around with their names. A lot of the response online was just hey besties, Bailey didn't get the job for just holding up the sign. He got the job because that was a new and fun idea and people enjoyed it. You doing the same thing as everyone else is not going to get you the job. And this is how Remy responded to the amount of applications that they got.
Oh guys, what are we meant to do?
It's actually not real.
Guess what?
Hundreds of applications.
Hundreds of new employees because we're never going to be able to choose.
Everyone's employed now. We're
Unreal.
going to have to upgrade the warehouse.
Yeah. Anyone got a warehouse about 10 million sizes bigger than this? Because that's what we're needing right now. On a real note though, we're obsessed with you all. So thank you for, first of all, we didn't even ask for the videos.
I know, they
everyone's
started
just
doing them.
gone absolutely nuts.
So cool.
If we could employ you all, we would. But we'd be bankrupt in 3 weeks.
You have to apply before Thursday because we're closing applications as of Thursday.
Doors are closing. Oh, we're going to leave the
ad
here again because we actually never
We
posted
put it on stories, dude, for
And
24
it's
hours
just
and then
gone.
gone. So if you missed it, you missed it.
Make sure you email, guys. Please make sure you email because your videos are amazing, but we need
A
your
little bit more
CVs
too.
and we need your emails and your phone numbers.
Yeah, we can't just comment on your TikTok and you're hired.
Just that. Please come in on Tuesday, 9 a.m. We have a very long road ahead of us with going through everyone and the interview process.
Exciting.
That's your job, eh?
So millennial.
My job.
Yeah, you can do
You've
that.
just gone exciting. We're stressed. Oh my god, it's just a choke. Is it mine?
No, it's yours over there.
Oh,
Anyway, I'm crying,
Yeah.
guys, because I'm just so emotional about all of these episodes.
Okay, make sure you apply before Thursday. They're closing Thursday. We love ya.
And I think these applications just really show how much people want to work for these brands, whether or not they have the experience, because it looks so fun online. Whilst yes, I think a lot of people do study and also have the relevant qualifications to do the job, I definitely think there is a lot of hype around working for a place like this, just in the same way we thought it was all glamorous and roses to be a makeup beauty influencer. I mean, for some people, probably it was pretty easy peasy lemon squeezy, but I do think that working for these brands, because they only post the highlight reel, the fun stuff that they do, it definitely looks like a magical, fun, exciting place to work that is so exciting, especially to young girlies that love TikTok, that love social media, that love fashion. Like, it really just naturally speaks to people. So there are two more brands that I wanted to talk to you guys about, but one I want to save for the kind of critical yap side. So let's next talk about Fate, the label, which was started by Brittany Lee Saunders. And Brittany was definitely an OG YouTuber for sure. Like, she started in the early 2010s, and she was definitely in like the beauty YouTube space. She went on the benefit trips, the tripping with Tarte trips. Like, yeah, it was rare. She was lucky enough to be there. And then in the later 2010s is when she started Fate, the label. And so if you go to their website, I would say that, you know how people are always like, you got to make a time, what's it called? A capsule wardrobe. I was going to say a time capsule. No, that's wrong. I feel like her brand and her clothes are very much staples and very like classic. Even though, yes, they do lean into some trends, I would say that they are clothes that you could wear year after year and not feel like they've gone out of style. Out of style. So let's hear about Fate, shall we? This is under their sizing commitment, and it says, at Fate, we believe that great style starts with the perfect fit. Our commitment to precise sizing is at the heart of everything we do. We know that finding the right size can sometimes feel like a challenge, and we're here to change that. Since the fashion industry lacks a universal sizing standard, in brackets, something we wish existed, we take a meticulous approach to grading every garment. Unlike many brands that sample on a size 4 or 6 Australian, we develop our designs with all shapes in mind. As the founder of Fate, I, Brittany Saunders, am deeply passionate about creating clothing that truly fits. Every piece starts with my own size 10 to 12 frame and is refined with input from our team to ensure we celebrate and support curves from the very first sketch. We design with intention, knowing that details matter, whether it's ensuring denim has the right amount of stretch, adding depth to bust cups, adjusting length for comfort, or selecting high quality materials that move with you. Our goal is to create pieces that feel as good as they look. At Fate, we don't just make clothes, we create confidence. And I definitely feel like when you go on Fate's socials, you definitely see that. Like, they are very inclusive, have lots of different models, and I feel like inclusivity is definitely one of the best words to describe them. And it's not just with models, but with their community, because they're very much focused around like, how can we involve the people that watch? And even though they do have like social media creators, I have noticed for a while now that they kind of don't have the same personality presence on their videos in comparison to the All for Mimis or the Remy by Riley's. And I don't say that in a mean way. It was just something I noticed, and for a while I didn't really understand why, but knowing what I know now and having kind of percolated on it, I can definitely tell that this was an intentional choice by Brittany and Fate to have familiar faces on their socials, but to also always be including new people. Instead of like with the other brands, we really see the same people and they also model the clothing. Fate definitely still uses models and uses their community as models. They have a Fate PR list, which means their community can get on the PR list. And they also recently did a unsigned model search, and I must say the unsigned model search, as well as like applying to be the content creators for these brands, definitely gives me like deja vu to the ABH Anastasia Beverly Hills, for those of you who don't know, Twitter makeup PR searches that they did back in the 2010s, because it was a frenzy. Like, you knew when ABH was looking for new creators to send PR to, because it was all you could see. Everyone was using the ABH dip brow and eyeshadow soft glam palette, modern renaissance, everyone said it different. It was a time to be alive. But the thing that I wanted to highlight with Fate is obviously this model search that they did, and I wanted to show you guys this video that Brittany made about the model search, because I just found it so interesting.
We are a fashion brand and we just did a model search within our own community. We had over 9,000 people apply. We met 120 people and we've somehow managed to pick just one winner. Let's talk about it.
Did you really go through 9,000 applicants? And if so, how did you shortlist them?
We had a lot of people say, how did you go through 9,000 applicants? It was a team effort over 2 weeks. We went through every single applicant. We worked out roughly how many people we could physically meet in a day, down to the minute. We worked out that number, and that's how we decided how many people we could actually bring through each day. Mind you, I would have loved to have met a lot more than 120, but we were on a tight schedule.
What qualities were you looking for in the winner?
With the 120 people that we were meeting, we already knew that everyone was beautiful, and even though modeling is about looks, for us, we were were looking for someone's personality. We wanted to see their enthusiasm, their excitement, their confidence, because at the end of the day, they're going to be doing a bit of modeling. So we were definitely looking for confidence. And above all, someone who could just align really well with us as a brand.
With that in mind, what was it about Claudia's audition that made you realise she was the one?
I'm not going to lie, it was tricky for us because we met so many people when it came down to picking a winner, but there were a few things on the casting day with Claudia that really stood out and kind of gave me this signal that she was the one. The first one being, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, I will confirm that I can say this. When she walked into the audition room with Wade and I, she'd kind of gone like a little bit red. The first thing that she said when she walked in was, "Hello, I just want to point out, I'm sorry that I've gone all red, but it's just because I'm really excited." And straight away, Wade and I looked at each other and I was like, oh my God, that is the perfect frame of mind to have. Love that she was channeling her nerves as excitement, and the fact that she said that, I was like, yes girl, you are excited. You're not nervous, you're just excited to be here. And that stuck with me for the whole week. From then on, for the 5 or so minutes that we were with her, I could just tell that she wanted it. There was just something about her when she was talking to us where she, or I don't know if she did, but it was like she knew that this was hers, and it just really stuck with me. And I didn't forget about that for the rest of the week because she was on day one. She was down to earth, she was funny, she was showing off her sense of humor. She's just like got this girl next door kind of vibe. And I don't know, like I just felt it in me waters, Kimmy.
So where to from here?
Well, we're going to be putting Claudia to work, and you're going to be seeing her everywhere a lot this year. But as I mentioned, we met so many amazing people in our 4 days that we kind of don't want to just stop it there. I want to create more opportunities for people after the success of our casting. So all I can say is watch this space.
And honestly, this idea was so smart for so many reasons. In the same way, it brought a lot of attention when people were applying to work for All for Mimi and Remy. I feel like it also brought attention to Fate because people were keeping up with the castings. People wanted to see who made it through, and it was just really cool to see behind the curtain and to really just see them giving opportunities to just like girly pops. It was really very cool to see that. And I do also see like the business mind with Brittany's angle of like, you're getting introduced to a model, so you're more connected to her when you see her wearing the clothes. Like it's not just some random beautiful stunning amazing girly pop. That's Claudia. She won the model search. Like we're invested with her. We like her. She's funny. She's excited to be here. All of those things, it makes you feel so much more when you see the content, when you see her wearing the clothes, because it's not just a model anymore. It's a story that we've become invested with in the same way that we've become invested with like these characters on Remy and All for Mimi's socials. So the final brand I wanted to introduce to you guys is Jazz Handmade, which is a brand started by Jazz Hand, who was also, I would say, like an OG influencer like Brittany, but she started as a makeup artist, and so she was even more so like a beauty influencer, but then she started this jewelry brand. And I feel like this is the really cool thing about influencers starting their own brands, is that they really get to choose what they want, or at least we hope they're choosing to make things that they really love and enjoy. So this is what Jazz's website says about them. Jazz Handmade is an Australian jewelry label dedicated to crafting high quality pieces perfect for everyday wear. Our values center around empowering individuals by offering jewelry that complements any style. Whether you're dressing up for an event or for everyday wear, our diverse range of style and materials have something to suit every occasion. Jasmine Hand, the owner of Jazz Handmade, began her career online as a makeup artist, which paved the way for her to become a full-time social media figure. Based in the Gold Coast, Australia, Jasmine is passionate about all things fashion, beauty, and accessories. In 2020, she decided to bring her vision of creating jewelry to life and shared it with the world. We hope you love these pieces as much as she enjoyed creating them for you. And so what I will highlight is that all of these brands are also kind of like on that side of Australia as well, and Jazz and Riley are besties. Like they travel together a lot. Obviously being influencers, they get invited to similar events, but they are genuinely bestie friends, and that is why they ended up collaborating, as I said when I introduced Remy by Riley, because they did a crossover where it was like a jewelry and swimwear, and that content went absolutely viral because they took their whole teams to Dubai. And again, just like we got so excited to see our favorite influencers go on brand trips, I feel like we got so excited to see our favorite like brands go on these trips to promo their products, and everyone was following their every move. Everyone was so excited, everyone loved the crossover, and it felt like you were watching like a genuine friend group have a lot of fun and make a lot of content. And another reason I bring up Jazz Handmade, and I really don't want this to come across the wrong way or feel like I'm picking on her over the other brands, or I think the other brands are like better or worse than hers. I just think that this is a very clear and recent example example of how we transition into the criticisms and concerns that were raised around these brands, because Jazz actually hired her cousin Jade that she didn't even know existed. I didn't know that you existed, because those sides of the family didn't talk. Now that we don't talk, wow, my brain's on a roll. They didn't know that each other existed until Jade applied for the role as like a PR social media type girly pop, and so they hired her. However, Jade actually got a new job opportunity earlier this year, and I feel like this is just such a perfect example of how like the lines can become blurry, because obviously everyone's so invested in each person that shows up in this content. They started to notice that Jade wasn't there anymore, and people started to ask questions. They were like, where's Jade? What happened to Jade? Does Jade still work for Jazz Handmade? And even on Jade's personal social medias, there's so many questions being like, why didn't you go to Dubai? Or do you still work for Jazz Handmade? And obviously it feels like you shouldn't have to say why you left a job. From my memory, because I watched Jazz's vlogs, she explained that Jade got a new job opportunity that would have been crazy, silly, goofy to refuse. And I feel like that is such a normal part of life, right? Like you get new jobs, new opportunities, you change careers. Like life is always changing and evolving, and that is such a normal thing to happen. And if anything, it's a reflection of how good of a job Jade did. But because their whole team was online, it made the audience have these questions, and it really raised the question of like, how do you handle such a situation? What do you do when someone leaves? And what would have happened if Jade left on bad terms? Like luckily Jade just left because she got a new exciting career opportunity, but because they didn't say anything about it, people are still asking, even though she left months ago, why don't you work there? Do you work there? Where, why, who? And I feel like whilst the audience watching aren't meaning to cross boundaries, it is crossing boundaries, because at the end of the day, it is a workplace. And I feel like that is why I wanted to bring up that example specifically, to slide us so seamlessly into the concerns around these brands showing all of their employees and just really making it look like the most fun and exciting place to work. So let's first get into a creator who really raised this question online, and it definitely ruffled some feathers.
Unpopular opinion incoming. This one's going to get me in some trouble. This is EGC content, employee generated content, and it's giving lawsuit or HR nightmare. This model of employee generated content, EGC content, is not sustainable, and that's why it's going to be gone in the next 2 years. And if I'm wrong, I'd really love to hear from some of these brands about how this is sustainable for the next 2 years. Because I seen this kid the other night, he wasn't able to go to dinner because he was so tired, and then he woke up and he was popped on a live. Like, the lines are a little bit blurred here about employee, bestie, you know, when they're filming content, when they're not, how many lives they're doing. I mean, some of them have got some really good, you can see it's 9 to 5 type stuff when they're working, they're filming content, and they might have certain days and they batch content, and that's cool. But how is this model sustainable for the next 2 years? Let me know in the comments what you think.
This post ruffled a few feathers, and it also proved my point. This post is all about how EGC blurs the lines between friendship and content creator and employee. Also about there being potential for a lawsuit and HR. Since posting this, there's been a lot of great comments, but some of the posts that have come out since prove slightly the point. We've also had content being shown about that they do work and that it's not just content. Of course they work. I understand that they're working and also creating content. I think we all understand that. It's just, you know, do they get time off? Are they able to switch off? And it's not just like when they switch off from work. Yes, you can say to your employee, okay, you finish at 9 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, you can go home now. It's like once you get home, when you're in the content creation space, you know, all social media managers would know this, or social media assistants. Once you get home, you're looking at analytics, you're just doing constant research, you're looking at TikTok. Even when you're on there just to have your own funsies and do it for yourself, you're still like, oh, I could do that trend. You know, they did a call on trend recently, and Bailey was like, that's my job. Of course I know about it. Yeah, of course he knows about it. He lives on TikTok. We all live on TikTok. It's just like, is that work or is it play? Like, it's so hard. And that's not the employer's fault. But as content creators, it is hard for us to switch off.
And I feel like she raised such genuine and valid concerns around these boundaries and around like the reality of this is still a workplace. I feel like because we see the content of them having fun, them being silly and like doing challenges, even though she says we know that they work, I think there's still this kind of illusion that it's still more fun, that their job and their work is more fun. But reality is probably a lot of their work is around emails, is doing office corporate girly stuff, but it just has this added fun element of going on trips. Yes, there is fun elements to their job, but I think most jobs, I would hope, also have a fun element. I would imagine it would kind of be similar working for a magazine back in the day. Like most of your job was just like writing up articles, doing research, but you got fun things too, like free makeups and like brand trips, brand events, things like that. But I do think it is really interesting that it ruffled feathers, and I do think it's really interesting that people felt attacked by these concerns when I don't even think these concerns are specific to these types of businesses. Like, yes, the content creating stuff is specific to them, but to me, what I see, like when I take a step back, what I really see is just like a small business situation. Hands up if you've worked for a small business. I've worked for quite a few, and I just feel like in general, there are a lot of growing pains and like blurry lines with a small business where it's like, you work together, but it's a family. Like we all know that toxic workplace, that's like, it's a family here. But genuinely from some of my workplaces, I have made genuine friends in my real life, and I still have them to this day. And that doesn't mean that anything wasn't appropriate, but we did also have to make sure that there were boundaries in place, and we knew when to work and when to be serious, and when it was fun, silly, goofy, hang out as friends time. And I think just in general, all of these girlies starting their business is so inspiring and exciting, but there is a lot of growing pains with that. You have to make so much HR documentation, you have to make protocols, you have to make policies all from scratch, all from ground zero. Like there is so much being built while it's happening. So because Bailey for All for Mimi was the first person that they hired, and so it's like, okay, now we have to make a new contract, now we have to do all of these things, and we as the audience just have to hope that Soph and Bailey are protecting each other and protecting their relationship so that they can have a working relationship and a friendship if they want to, and that doesn't cause problems. Hey guys, editing Briar. I know, insert that you can't get rid of me beep meme because I simply can't stop popping into these videos, can I? Don't know. But you see, I did write something down, but did I say it out loud? No, so here I am saying it now. And that is the point that a lot of influencers these days have not even really worked in a corporate or office job. And so they really don't have that experience of what those boundaries feel like, of the type of protocols, HR. Now, whilst yes, I do agree that this is like a valid concern, I do also feel like a lot of people also start jobs and careers and do new things all of the time. And when you start something new, you do not have the experience, and it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that there will be a lot of like learning curves and learning lessons. And I feel like that is probably what is more likely with these brands, is that there will just be a lot more learning lessons and things that they will come across that maybe they haven't previously because they don't have that corporate experience. I don't think you have to have corporate or office experience to know how to run a good team or to know how to make a good workspace or have a good workplace environment. But I do understand why this is raised, because it does often feel like influencer world is like not a part of the real world, and they often kind of live in their own rules, a la the office siren trend that went off, because it definitely feels like there is a set of influencers that are just really out of touch. And I wouldn't consider any of these influencers that way, but I would say obviously there would be gaps to not having worked in those spaces. But I think for them, as long as they know that, and as long as they know their weaknesses and things that they need to learn and improve on and be mindful of when growing their business, that shouldn't be a problem, or that shouldn't be a reason why they wouldn't be able to have a good working environment. It just is, again, a learning lesson like everything else that has been raised. I do feel like it gets raised a lot around influencers, and like they don't have this experience, they don't have that experience, they've never had this job, they've never had a quote-unquote real job. And I just think it's really interesting because it implies that they have had no experience and like they haven't learned anything from working with brands. I think they just have different experiences, and I think like with anything in life, you just need to be really aware and mindful of your weaknesses. But anyway, back to filming me. Now, I did want to show you guys another video made by Brittany, who owns Fate, because she weighed in on the situation.
Unpopular opinion incoming. This one's gonna get me in some trouble.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
nah, I loved this video and I had to stitch it because I was in the comments and everyone was tagging me. This creator went on to say that she thinks that staff being in brand social media is unsustainable, a HR nightmare, and one day it's all going to come to an end. And as someone who puts my staff on our fake social media, and as someone who employs 70 people and have been in business for almost 8 years now, I feel like I'm the person that's qualified to talk about this. And you know what? Even though your video was a controversial opinion, I'm kind of with you and I kind of agree with you. Having staff in your social media as a business and brand has become a massive trend. And it's something that I've been doing since the beginning of Fate. And now we have so many prominent brands in Australia. Your Sofa Dofa and Bailey from All for Mimi. You've got your Remy by Riley team and your Jazz Handmade team. And their teams are like completely on social media. It's almost like that's their entire business model and strategy on TikTok. And I am with you. I think it is a HR nightmare and so much can go wrong. So much is at risk. And this is a decision that we make as business owners when we decide to put our staff on socials. So what are some of the things that can go wrong? What if someone leaves? What if something bad happens? How do these staff get fairly compensated if they're going on overseas trips? Are they getting paid for it or are they just getting the free trip? Is it all just fun and games? Are all of these employers and employees all best friends, hanging out all the time, spending a lot of time together? Are those lines and boundaries being crossed? Where is the line? Is it becoming blurry? I have so much to say on this and I can speak from my own experience. Whilst having staff on TikTok isn't my entire strategy, it's definitely a bit of it. And I've been around for long enough to know all the risks that are involved and also all of the solid boundaries and foundations that us as business owners need to have in place, regardless of whether our staff are on socials or not, but especially if our staff are on social media.
And this to me perfectly explained why the Fate socials are the way that they are. Because when they hired their new social media person, I was a little bit like, oh, that's interesting that she's not using these same strategies that these other brands are. But her having this experience and explaining that makes it make so much more sense. And yes, I did listen to the podcast episode and she does talk about a specific experience where she hired someone right in the beginning and they were besties and there were no boundaries. And I feel like when there are no boundaries, but people are good workers and just don't need to be told things too much, it works well, it chugs along for the most part. But for her, that person was always late and always putting Brittany in a really bad position. And I feel like we all know, no matter what job we're in, my goody goodness, no matter what job you're in, it only takes one bad worker to ruin the whole thing. It only takes one bad worker to have the whole team hearing just like a general reminder about not forgetting to sign in and sign out or making sure that you do X, Y, and Z, but it's really for the one person and that one person's probably not even listening. It only takes one person to completely impact and negatively affect these situations. And I feel like because all of these girls and fiancés and gays are so excited to be there and so passionate and so invested and involved in these brands, it has worked well for them so far. But like Brittany says, once you get bigger, once you have 70 employees, she said, you can't have that same energy. And I'm not sure that Jazz Handmade and Remy by Riley and All for Mimi are trying to get that big. I think they quite enjoy being the size that they are. I feel like they enjoy having the level of success and like orders and productivity that they do. But in that case, if someone leaves, like when Jade left Jazz Handmade, they have to hire someone new and they have to hope and make sure and do their best to make sure that that person understands the message, understands that you have to work hard to then have this fun environment. And I feel like I've definitely worked in environments where we all worked hard and we all got along, so we found a balance. But I think that that is a really tricky thing to do, and I do often feel like it puts the manager or the boss in a tricky position, because if they need to call people out, if they need to pull people aside, it can feel like, oh, am I scolding my friend? No, you're making sure your employee is working to the standard that you have set. And equally on the travel situation, like that is also not a unique to these types of company situations. Like I know a lot of different people that travel for work, whether it's, friends that are flight attendants or, just generally having to travel and do overnight situations for work. It's not uncommon for people to travel for work, but there are rules, protocols, and regulations in place. And I just think it's so important that these brands do this to make sure that people aren't feeling like they're being taken advantage of. Whilst yes, I'm sure if you ask the Remy or Jazz handmade girls if they felt like being taken to Dubai was being taken advantage of, they would definitely say no, but there is still a lot of pressure on them. They're still working, there's still a lot of expectations, and you can imagine if there's one girly pop not carrying her weight, she's just acting like she's on holiday. She's like that freaking au pair we talked about a couple weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? To conclude, I don't particularly think this type of content is unsustainable. I do just think, but boundaries and documentation need to be put in place, and the owners, whether it's Soph, whether it's Jazz, whether it's Riley, whether it's Brittany, they need to still be able to be a boss when the time calls for it. They need to still be able to be listened to when they need to be listened to, and I don't think that any of them seem to have a problem with those situations, and I think their teams seem to work really well. But again, we're just seeing what we're showing. But I do just think for their benefit, they should see these concerns as like coming from a caring place and wanting to make sure everyone is being protected in these situations, so that this type of content can last for years and years, because it has already lasted for a while. Like Riley and Jazz, they made their brands in 2020 and they've been showing their life and their lifestyles and making content for a really long time. So I do think that we have seen that content creation can be long-term sustainable. I do just think they should see this as like have a hymn, take a pause, have a think, scratch that head for a second, and just make sure they are protecting themselves. Like when Remy hires this new person for their team, make sure they have all the proper documentations, all the proper, what's it called? My brain is blanking, I've spoken for too long. Contracts, wow, good one, me. Making sure that all the proper procedures, protocols, HR is in place. Like, it's so annoying and boring, but it's so important and necessary. And that's duality of life. And I think in general, like us as human beings, like we like boundaries and rules so that we know what is expected of us, and then we can have the fun. And we know we've been successful when we meet expectations, when we meet targets, when we do our job well, that then we can enjoy the fun moments, that we then can be silly and do this fun social media content. So I hope that these brands didn't feel like this was an attack on them, or that they're being told that they're taking advantage of their employees, because I think it's just more coming from that concerned and caring place to make sure that this can have longevity. But what do I know? But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As we know, I love to have a silly yap in between my serious ones. We got to have a balance. Like I said, dualities. It's about boundaries. It's about having a silly moment and a serious moment. Maybe that's me putting in my own boundaries. Who knows? But I would love to know what you guys think in the comments down below, so please let me know. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. If you stay till the end, you are a real one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to keep up with me between my uploads, I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and I'll link my vlog channel down below. But don't you worry, guys, because I'm not funny there either. Bye.